So today we are welcoming in Baz Plummer from Golf Monthly. Now Baz is one of the writers for Golf Monthly. I've been blessed to do a couple of shoots with Baz. We are going to get him into the studio and put him through his paces. I want to see what he can do and how I can help take his golf to the next level. We are going to fix your game today.
Looking forward to it.
That's the plan. Tell me the bad one first. What's going on?
My miss is definitely right at the moment.
Okay. Right, going right? Does it start right?
Yeah. Start right, ends horribly right.
Okay.
And yeah, I don't really seem to have much of a left miss, which I suppose is at least a little bit encouraging. But
Do you ever miss it left?
Yeah, I do. I do sometimes miss it left, but a lot less often than I miss it right. And I think that, getting under control and, a bit more confidence of where my miss is will help me massively to be a bit more strategic around the golf course, I think.
Okay, cool. When it's going like really well, like what does a good shot look like?
Yeah, my ball flight can be pretty straight. And I think that my distance that I'm hitting my iron shots, I'm relatively happy with when I get it right, but it's just not very consistent, which is probably why I'm still playing off a handicap in the low 20s. And I'd like to be playing more of a handicap in the teens.
That's fair enough. Like, what sort of shape does it have? Like, are you good shape? Like, is it just
I don't typically think I hit it particularly high. I suppose a little bit more of a lower ball flight, but yeah, when it's straight, it does sometimes still have a little bit of a soft sort of fade on it on some of my good ones. I can't remember a time I've ever hit a draw on purpose, so that's at least one thing.
The hidden thing you're trying to find.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. When you're shaping up to a shot, like when you're setting up to it, is there a shape that you like to see? Like, do you tend to try and play a fade in?
Yeah, I think
that suits your eye better.
I feel more comfortable that way, yeah, because that's what I'm used to seeing, I suppose. I think my alignment sometimes, what's happening in my head and where I think I'm allowing myself to play for that type of shot, maybe I'm not necessarily in my setup. So alignment has typically in golf lessons I've had before been a little bit of an issue for me in terms of what I perceive to be the alignment versus what I'm actually doing.
Yeah, feel and real are two very different things, right? Okay, cool. Any injuries I should know about?
Nope, fit and healthy.
Yeah. Well, you just got two kids. That means you're
not... Two very, very young
deprived.
Kids, so just sleep deprivation,
Yeah, nice. Cool. Basically, just let's run through what I'm going to do today is... imagine I could do anything to your game. Like literally, I have the ability to do anything that you want to your game. What would be like the one thing that you would love to be able to do?
I think in terms of, a realistic ambition, like I said, I'd like to be able to play in the sort of teen handicaps, but also be able to play golf in a way that allows me to feel competitive when playing with my friends, have an understanding of my ball flight and feel confident that majority of the time I can understand, what's going to happen when I hit a shot, but also understand my misses in the conscious understanding that actually I know that there are going to be some, and understand that if that is going to be my miss, be able to be strategic in where I'm setting up, alignment, all that sort of stuff to make sure that I give myself the best chance to get around a golf course in a way that I find enjoyable. I'm not under any illusion that I'm going to go straight away to be a fantastic golfer, but I want to be able to...
I was concerned you're about to say get on tour, I'll be honest.
Well, if you could do that, I mean, if we've got 3 wishes, then great, but I think I might be slightly over the hill in terms of that ambition. So.
But to understand your game so you know the consistency.
Yeah, definitely.
Everything starts from the ground up, so the first thing I'm going to do is do a screen first of all to see like what you can do, and then we're going to get you on the force plates to see how you're generating that power. Then we'll get you on the 3D kit to then see how that power goes through your body, and then finally we can obviously get you on TrackMan, which TrackMan's an amazing bit of kit, but it only tells me what's happening at that moment of impact. It doesn't tell me how or why, and that's what we're going to answer today.
I'm excited.
Sound like a plan?
Very excited. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So the TPI screen is just a great way to see what limitations Baz has, so I can understand what I can and can't do with his golf swing. I'm not going to get him to do something if he can't physically do it. Can you just literally copy me what I do, right? I just want you to go into a normal setup position. First of all, just show me your nice neutral posture that you've got. And I want you from here to get your belt to go down and then back up again, staying in posture. I don't want you to move your spine like this. I want you to stay relatively stable. And I want your belt to go down this way with your hips and then back up again. Almost imagine if I had like a bucket of water, I'm trying to dump the water forward and then stop it dripping, right? So belt down and back up. It's really weird, test this. but it's basically figuring out like how much movement I got to work with from lower body. Now you're doing this with your spine.
Right.
And I want you to try and feel like your spine is staying stable. You're staying in posture, and you're just doing it. Watch my belt. It goes down and it goes back. So it's more in the hips this way, up and through. You're struggling to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, which is fine. Like, please don't take anything that we do in this screen as a bad thing. Like, I'm trying to see what we've got to work with, right?
Okay.
Imagine this is 0 degrees of my pelvis. As I tilt forward this way, most amateurs, most pros tilt around 18 to 20 degrees forward.
Okay.
Okay, so this is that normal position. But as I take it up to the top here, I now lose a bit of that tilt. Right. But if I go into impact, and let's say impact's here, I don't look like this anymore. That movement actually happens, and it happens in a golf swing. It's just you're doing it so fast you don't see it.
Right.
If you struggle to do that, or in your case don't do it, your body, you're not going to return to the golf club like this. You're going to try and find another way, which means you can lose posture, which means you can early extend. There's a lot of problems that can happen just based on around what pelvis can do, right? So that's sadly you haven't passed that one, mate.
Okay.
I hate to tell you this.
Fine. Good start.
Good start, yeah. First one. Go back into that golf posture, and now what I want you to try and do is keep your lower body stable, and I just want you to separate your upper body. So keeping lower body stable and just move your upper body from in a rotational point of view. It doesn't have to be how far. I just want to see, can you keep your lower body stable and disassociate? You can do that really well. You must be a good putter.
Obviously.
Can you do it the other way around? So let's go back into that golf posture. Keep upper body stable, and I just want you to get your lower body to separate like this.
No.
No, that's harder, right?
Yep.
Okay, if I was to hold you like this, is that any easier? Nearly. It's hard to do that. That is hard to do. But if you think about, if you go to the top of your swing here, we want the best players in the world get their lower body to move first. If you can't disassociate your lower body from your upper, well, guess what? Everything's going to come together. And then sadly, we could be getting over the top kind of swing. I mean, you obviously haven't seen your swing yet, but this is just based on what body is doing. I can then paint a bit of a picture in my head of what problems you potentially could be doing. And we could definitely give you some exercises to fix those, right?
Sounds good.
Let me just test your arm. So if you put your arm out like this to 90 degrees, and I just want you to fold it up as far as you can go. We're going to test both, so let's just do right first of all. Can you go any further back than that? Yeah, cool. Now go into golf posture and do exactly the same thing. Just lift this arm up, and I just see, does it get better or worse? Or the same? It's bang on the same. So now let's see it from this side. So stand up tall again, 90 degrees, and then just fold up. Can you go any further?
No.
You need to do some stretching. Now go into golf posture and do the same thing again. Arm up slightly. So about the same with the spine. Okay, cool. Can I get you on this box?
Yep.
I just want you to sit on it, like so. I want to cross your legs. I just want to put the club across your chest, and I just want to see how much rotation you've got to the left and to the right. So just cross your feet. You bring your legs up slightly, that's it. And I just want you to rotate around to the left and right, and I just want to see how much movement you've got. Yeah, cool, and this way. Yeah, I love it. When was the last time you were in the gym?
6 months.
Okay, cool.
Probably.
Would it be worse if you said yesterday?
Yeah.
Right, I just want to test then how much hip mobility you've got. So can you just stand like so, where one foot's flat? We're going to test both feet. But I just want you to do downswing first. So just hands on hips. I want to keep this left foot as flat as you can to the ground. Like I don't want you to cheat. I just want to see how much hip movement you've got. We're going to test both feet. So hands on hips. I just want to rotate that way. Yeah, nice. And then swap feet over. So now do it the other way, but still go towards the target. Yeah, very nice. Now let's turn this around. So think of that as downswing.
Yep.
Now I want you to do the complete opposite. I want you to go that way.
Same foot.
We're going to test both feet. You can come slightly further forward. We're going to test both feet. So just do that again and rotate this way in your backswing. See, that's a lot tighter.
Yeah, I can feel that.
Can you wear in the hip? Now swap feet over. And do the same thing, go that way. Yeah, that was so much easier to actually get you open.
Yeah.
I'd expect to see in your golf swing, you should be able to get into a nice open position,
Okay.
but potentially we haven't got as much range of motion in that right hip to get you into a full backswing.
Okay.
Can I just test your neck?
Yep.
So stand really tall, and I just want you to get your chin to get as close to your collarbone as possible. Like, see if you can touch me down here. And this side. It's a really silly test, but if you think about it, like that's a golf swing, isn't it? If I was here, that's that position. If I was here, that's that position.
Yeah.
Like how much neck move. People have got really bad necks. They tend to like try and find other ways to move the club. So it's a really important test. Now let's just test your arms. So hands together. And then I want you to put your palms up and palms down. Just want to see how much range of motion you've got. Yeah, nice. Thumbs up, make a fist. Thumbs down. And back up again. And then arms out in front and just flex down. And then back up. Nice. Do that one more time. Let's just see that one. So the nice thing with a 6-iron is, can you do this one again? I just want to see how much you can go down. Yeah, cool. Cool, cool. Right, let's test your balance.
Okay.
Did you have any beers last night?
No.
No, good man. You knew you were coming for this, so
I did.
you were preparing.
Take this very seriously.
Let's lift one leg up, arms by the side. You can't have you touching. I just want you to feel like you're balanced. I want to see, shut your eyes and just going to count how long you can hold this for. This is good. Yeah, I love it. Let's swap over. So whenever you're ready, close your eyes and I'll start counting. Yeah, I like it. Right, there's just one we need to do on the floor.
Okay.
And basically what I want you to do is just lie down, put knees together like so, 1 foot up, bum in the air, and I just want you to put your hands up like this. So that's it, knees, leg lower slightly, bum off the ground, and I just want you to hold that for as long as you can. This is basically just testing your kings and queens, how strong your abs are and your glutes are. Yeah, cool. Now let's swap over. Leg up, bum up in the air. Any cramping behind here at all?
Nope.
No. This is good. I've seen a lot worse.
That's encouraging.
Right, cool. You can come back down. Can you touch your toes?
Standing up.
Yeah. Oh, easy, easy. Can I just say, is one better than the other? Can you just put one right foot up like that and just go down on the left side and do the other way around?
Footballers' hamstrings.
Yeah, nice, 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 nice. Right, last one. I just want to get you on the door.
Okay.
I'm going to lock the door in case someone opens it and you go flying out. I just want you to get down as low as you can.
Yep.
So your lower back is flat against the wall. Feet just shoulder width apart, and I just want to see like how high you can lift your arms up.
Okay.
Without your lower back coming away from the wall.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to test to see if it does.
So that position.
Yeah, you can come a little bit higher if you like. That's it. Thumbs up, and then I want to keep this lower part of your back stable. If that door wasn't there, do you think you could go straight over?
Yeah.
I think so too. Yeah, come back down. And then finally, I just want to do an overhead deep squat. So literally, can you put the club above your head? Feet close together or shoulder width apart. And I want you to do a squat, but I don't want that club to come forward. I want to see like, can you hold it back as you go down? Pretty good. I like it. Go on, one more time. And you're pretty level as well, aren't you, doing it? Mate, that's good. That's very good.
Thanks.
So I've put all of that into the TPI app, right?
Yeah.
You've got a fitness handicap. Well, actually, tell you what, have a guess. So this goes from -7, so +7, up to 54.
If I've beaten my normal handicap, I'll be pleased.
Okay, cool. Well, it's 20.
Okay, right.
Okay, it's 20, which is it's good and bad, right? I always think like if you had, let's say I had 2 people coming to me for like, it was trying to join my say golf team, and they were both playing off scratch, and one had a fitness handicap of 20 and one had a fitness handicap of scratch.
Yeah.
Who would you pick for your team to play?
No brainer.
Yeah, go on. Which one would you pick?
Well, scratch.
Scratch and scratch,
Yeah.
right? Everyone says that. It's amazing. But actually, like, you think about it, that guy is, in a way, kind of maxed out.
Okay.
Like, the other guy's off scratch with a body that can't really move.
I see what you mean, yeah.
So actually, I can do so much more with that guy whose
Yeah.
body is got some limitations.
Yeah.
Actually, we can improve the body because the body he's still getting to scratch.
Makes
right?
sense, yeah.
Your body's moving slightly better than your handicap, so there's a lot of technical stuff that we can be doing.
Yep.
But there's also a lot in that I can see that I'm predicting we're going to see in your golf swing.
Okay.
Right. There's honestly there's a lot, and I will share this with you, and I'll
Yep.
send this across. But where the TPI is really good is they put all those data from all the players around the world
Yeah.
and get AI to kind of have a look and kind of almost predict the golf swing,
Yeah.
right? According to this, you've got an 80% chance of losing your posture in your swing and early extending just based on what you're currently doing.
Yep.
You also got a 72% chance of swaying off the ball, so actually swaying this way.
Yep.
Because you couldn't load into that right hip very well,
Yep.
you're either going to do a really short swing
Yep.
to get around it,
Yep.
or you're going to find another way to get
Yep.
there. You've also got a 67% chance of coming over the top,
Yep.
just based on that separation. But what I'm going to look for in that is that more of a power thing? Like,
Okay.
are you losing a lot of power because you haven't got a good separation?
Yep.
So let's just do a very quick screen on power
Yep.
to see what we've got engine-wise to
Okay.
work with. We are going to do a vertical jump.
Yep.
I'm going to test your grip strength.
Okay.
I'm going to test how far you can throw a ball sitting down and kneeling down and coming up.
Okay.
The TPI power screen, now that's a different beast. This isn't about what he can do as in movement wise. This is about what the engine is, what I've got to work with when it comes to power. So I'm going to test his legs, I'm going to test his core, and I'm going to test his upper body strength to see what his superpowers are, what strength he's got, and which areas we could improve or potentially not going to see in his golf swing. So where this is really clever is I can then see, based on what your body is producing, I
Yep.
can see your superpower is definitely your legs.
Okay.
100% your legs. Like,
Yep.
if we get you on the force plates and you're not using your legs well, there's a problem.
Yeah, okay.
Because actually they're your
Yep.
superpower and we need to make sure that they're doing their job. The upper body and the core is weak.
Yep.
It's not weak as in, like, I've seen a lot worse.
Yep.
It's not red, but it's definitely something you can get better at.
Okay.
If I see there's a lot of upper body, well,
Yeah.
actually, that's not your superpower.
Yeah.
So that's an efficiency problem.
Makes
isn't it?
sense. Yeah.
I just want to make sure now this is the engine that I've got to work with.
Yeah.
And if your legs aren't doing anything, well, actually, the other thing you're really good at.
Okay.
I've got to make sure they're doing something in your swing.
Okay.
So we know what body's capable of doing. We know that we've got to work with, as in power-wise. Let's see what you're doing then, shall we?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So I always think before I even open my mouth and give any golfer some advice, I want to get some good baseline information of everything they're doing. I basically just call it their ingredients. What are they bringing to the party? And then what do I need to kind of take away or add to help their golf? So the key thing is actually to measure everything. So I'm going to get him on the force plates. We're going to see how he starts that power from the ground. Then we're going to see on the K-Vest system how that power goes through the body. And then finally using TrackMan, see how that power is then delivered into the golf ball. Right, so let's hit some shots.
Okay.
Let's see what we can see what body can do.
Yep.
We've seen what power source we've got, as in what engine you've got to work with.
Yep.
Let's see actually now what's happening.
Okay.
So I'm going to get you on camera from every angle. I'm
Yep.
going to get the force plate data, and in a second I'm going to get you some 3D as well. So can we
Okay.
just whack a few down there and we'll capture everything. Cool. Let's can I get you in the 3D gear?
Yep.
So when we're looking at 3D, there's two things that I always look for. The first thing is on force plates is his kinetic sequence. So basically how he starts energy from the ground. Once we've found that and we actually go through that sequence, then I want to see how that energy goes through the body and then finally into the club. Now this is called the kinematic sequence. Basically, think of this, the kinetics is how you start the power. Kinematics is how that power goes through the body and into the club. I always think the best way to understand it is kinematics has got an M in it and the M stands for motion. You need the kinetics to start the motion. Nobody just moves, you use the ground, you push, you use those forces to start the motion. If he started it badly with the ground, it's then going to be even harder for that energy to go through the body. But I've seen so many people have great sequencing from the ground. They use the ground really, really well, but they can still mess it up going through the body, which is why we check both. We check the kinematics and we check the kinetics. So this is the 3D system.
Okay.
Okay, so this is measuring how much your body's moving. It's measuring what's sequencing's going on.
Yep.
But they're little Bluetooth sensors.
Okay.
These are just inertial sensors. And we've got one, it wants to be tight,
Yep.
but you also need to be able to breathe.
Okay.
I'm not very good at CPR. This one's gonna go just on lead arm. So this then is your kinematic sequence. So this is basically how energy is going through your body. And there's a couple of sequences we look at here. The first one is the transition sequence. This is how you start, basically how you start the swing.
Okay.
And this is from the top of the swing. So the first thing that should move, you can see this order, is 1, 2, 3, 4. You're starting it in order,
Okay.
which is great. That means if you're in a 100-meter race, you're getting a good start. You're coming out of the blocks well. You can still mess it up in that race, but that's a good place to start. Like I always think of that 100-meter race. That's the start. That's you coming out of the blocks. This is the finish line. This is your peak speeds.
Yep.
Now, sadly, these aren't in order.
No.
No, they're not.
No,
Are they?
they're
Sorry.
not.
The first thing that should stop is your lower body, and sadly, it's not.
Okay.
Your arms are starting to slow down, then your upper body, then the lower body, and then finally the club.
Okay.
Right. That's that sequence we need to fix because that's not an efficient sequence, which means you're not transferring that power through the body and into the club.
Yep.
When we look at speeds, these are the speeds that you're producing. The average amateur moves their hips roughly around 350 degrees per second. So your pelvis is moving 339, which is a little low, but considering you can't turn into that right hip really well, that's quite a good number.
Okay.
And the fact it's starting first is great.
Yep.
You can see on tour averages are around 420 to 510. There's a reason why the best players in the world, they're using their strongest muscles the most. The big one for me is your lower body. The fact that it's starting first but not stopping is a big deal. And I always use the analogy of a whip. Like if you think of transferring energy from the lower body up through the chain, the handle of the whip is the lower body. Okay, so if I was like trying to crack a whip, if you think about what generates that crack, is it how fast the handle moves forward or is it how fast the handle stops?
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's both, isn't it? To make that crack, the handle needs to stop. At the moment, you're not stopping. It's basically, that's the equivalent of the handle just carrying on going forward.
Okay.
You're not stopping your lower body, basically because it hasn't done its job, I think is a really good way to think about it. If you think about that finish line of 100-meter race, no one speeds up past the finish line, right? I need you to get to that finish line better, which is what we're going to work on now, starting from the ground.
Okay.
I just wanted to see, are you in order? Well, there's a couple of sequences that you are.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the big one, how it starts from the ground is off. So that will be the obvious place for us to start, to then see, do these numbers then get better?
Sounds good.
So the cool thing with force plates is I can see and measure basically 3 forces. I can see how much weight shift you're doing. So this is a lateral force. I can see a heel to toe force. So this is me going from anterior to posterior. And I can also see how much you push into the ground and you basically get from a vertical jump point of view.
Yeah.
If you think about why am I talking about forces, bear with me just for 2 seconds, because I just need to go back to Newtonian physics for just a second, because Sir Isaac Newton told this a long time ago. When you hit the ground, there's an equal and opposite reaction that hits you back. So basically, if I was to hit the ground with, say, like 100 pounds, there's a 100-pound ground reaction force that comes back through your body. And we're able to measure that on a force plate. So I can see those 3 forces of the weight shift, the heel to toe, and the jump. But what's more important than all of those forces, and bear in mind, those forces help us move the club. There's forces that help take the club up, there's forces that help take the club around. I just want to see the synchronization of how we use those forces in the ground to start the power. But when you hit the ground, like I say, that power, that ground reaction force comes back through you. When it comes back through your body, depending on where it is, it either moves you or it twists you. It either can push you or it can twist.
Yeah.
If you think in a golf swing, we're trying to get rotation. We're trying to get that twist force happening. So the cool thing with a force plate, we can also measure 3 torques. And we can torque, basically, which is twisting, we can torque in 3 directions as well. I can do what's called frontal plane torque, which is this torque. which basically, if you cut me in half, if this is the frontal plane, that's me lifting the club up and shallowing the club, right? That's what really good players do. They can shallow the golf club really easily. There's horizontal, which is basically rotation. I just call that twisting. That's just how much you can twist. And then there's bending. There's how much you can go forward and back. It's called sagittal plane torque. They all sound really scientific. I just like to use easy language. You bend, you extend. And like I said, it's a synchronization of those 3 torques and 3 forces. When we look at the best players in the world, let me just show you the sequence of events that happens. So we call this kinetic sequence. So what happens is at the top of the swing, the first thing we see with the best players in the world is there's a weight shift. No one starts with a rotation or a shallow. The best players in the world definitely start with a weight shift. Now, if you think of a weight shift, what happens when I weight shift? I actually hit the ground. Remember when I hit the ground hard, the ground hits me back hard, gives me more force, gives me more torque. So the first thing we see is that weight shift. The second thing we see is then this shallowing. You actually start to see this shallowing happen. Then rotation, which steepens the club, and then finally you get that jump. And it happens in exactly that order. There's a shift, a shallow, a twist, and a jump. That's what we call the kinetic sequence. So the first thing I want to do is see, are you doing that sequence? Because if you're not doing that sequence, then we can obviously talk about it. But I just want to see, and I always joke with people that if you're out of sequence, fast crap is still crap, right? I still need you to have it be in a good order. If you're not, then we can do something about it.
Okay.
So can we come over to this screen and have a look? So this is basically your kinetic sequence, so basically how you're using the grounds. What I've done here is I've just put a little yellow dot of where you peak in your swing of those 4 areas that we were talking about. So the first one is your left to right force, it's basically your weight shift. I've just put this little yellow dot, and if I was to move your swing, can you see this white dot moving? As you go into swing, the first one that should hit is this one. And can you see it hits first, which is great. It means you're starting the swing with a weight shift, which is great to see. The second one that sadly hits is this one, which is your rotation. That means that you're rotating before you're shallowing. The third one is then number 2, which is this one here, your frontal plane. And then finally coming in fourth is your vertical, which is normal. That should be the last thing. Unfortunately, we don't go 1, 2, 3, 4. We go 1, 3, 2, 4. So we're out of sequence here. So we need to improve what we're doing with the grounds to start with. Can we do that now?
Yes.
So I love using training aids when people are learning, when I'm teaching somebody, because I want them to be able to feel the motion. And a training aid, if it's used correctly, is just such a wonderful tool to feel different motions. Because as golfers, we are very used to just going to the driving range and just battering balls without really understanding what the movement is that we're trying to achieve. And the great thing with a training aid is I can give Baz that feeling and that actually give him the ability to know what I want him to do in his swing. Let me just show you what you're doing first. And I'm just going to use a force pedal, first of all, to show this. Is on the way back, you're loading onto the outside of your foot there, doing this.
Okay.
You get what we call a sway, where your hip goes slightly higher this way, away from the target.
Okay.
Imagine if I had like an electric fence here, I don't want to get zapped. You're very much getting zapped here. You're sadly not pushing very hard, which then is going to hurt you getting that better weight shift. But it's also going to hurt that shallowing. Like if I push off this foot, look what happens to me. I start to turn this way. So unfortunately, the point is wrong, because where I like to do it is more on the inside of the foot here.
Okay.
I like to feel like you're pushing and squeezing down this way and pushing hard towards 430 on a clock face.
Okay.
At the moment, you're basically just going that way, pushing straight down and coming straight back up again. Which sadly means you get that sway, and then sadly you get that early extension that we were talking about. I need to make sure we're getting a better load into this right hip. Now, unfortunately, you cannot move your hip. You can't load into this hip very well. So a nice little test to do, if you can just turn your foot in, the right foot in for me for a second this way. Do it, turn it in as far as you can like that. Now try and rotate. How far can you rotate? Not far at all, right, with your hips?
No.
Now turn it the other way, like flare it out. Now do it. Right, that's what we call freedom, right? That gives you more freedom. So it makes logical sense for me just to flare that foot out, say 10, 15 degrees.
Okay.
Because that's going to allow you to rotate into that hip nicer. But what I'm afraid of is you're going to go more into the outside of the foot. So I want you to practice with some pedals like this. of putting it on the inside here, really feeling like you're squeezing down and pushing away towards 430.
Okay.
That's what's happening with the right foot.
Right.
The left foot, if I get the other pedal here, put it on under my left toe, this wants to be the complete opposite. So I want to put this onto the big pad, so the big ball of my feet here. Because the left foot actually pushes, we push harder on the left than we do the right. On tour, it's 2 times more on the left.
Right.
You think about it, it's the leg that's pushing you out of the way, it's clearing the hips out of the way. Think of the right as what's pushing you off your right to get the weight shift. The left is what clears you out of the way this way. Unfortunately for you, you're pushing onto the outside of the foot that way and then going back onto your heel. It's almost like you're trying to fake opening the hip up. You cannot fake that. I think for you to actually stop that early extension, it's not a case of you just moving your pelvis back. You need something to push you back, right? So imagine if there's a wall here. If I push the wall there, where am I going to go? I'm going to start to move back. Now, in golf, we have what's called a force couple, which is basically the synchronization of these two that we're working on. With your foot, I want to feel like if I was pushing at, say, 430 onto a clock face here, and I was pushing at, say, 1030 on a clock face here, if you imagine the ground's going to push me that way, the ground's going to push me that way. If they do that at the same time, I'm going to twist. That's what gives us that twisting effect. I always use the analogy, if I had 2 rugby players and they were both standing there, if they both ran at me, where am I going to go? I'm just going to go backwards this way if they were running into a pole. But if you kept that rugby player there and he was pushing into this pole, if you move this guy back here, if he ran at me and pushed there, if he ran at me there, I'm now going to twist. You're not twisting in your swing. Sadly, you're swaying off it, which is because you've got a limitation in this right. You're early extending, and sadly, you're not using the ground well enough to fix it. I want to put this pedal, and I want it to feel like it's right onto the inside of that foot. And basically what I want to do is, let's move this out of the way first. Let's just work on backswing first of all. Can you turn up to the top for me for a second? And when you do this, I really want you to feel like you're squeezing in and you're pushing your foot back that way, away from the target. Does that feel uncomfortable? Can you flare that foot out slightly? Let's give you a bit more rotation. Remember, that's better freedom. So turn up to the top and stop. So I want you to push against me as hard as you can. Go on, you can push harder than that. Just note whereabouts in the foot are you pushing from that?
Inside.
Inside, yeah, cool. Do that again. Now do me a favor, go onto the outside and towards the toe. And now go up to the top and stop. I'm not going to lie, I reckon I could just pinky you over, right? There's no power in that, is there? That's so easy for you to do, is to fall over. Bear in mind, that push, is the harder you push this way, the more you're going to go towards the target. And it's so important it's in that good place. Can I just show you something? If I had a slider here, and you can do this at home on wooden floors with, say, socks on, but what I want to try and do with a slider is just get this feeling that when I push away, it's going towards that 430 position. If you were on ice and you were trying to rotate your hips, you would slip. One would go that way, one would go this way. But we're not just trying to rotate, we're trying to get that rotational weight shift. I'm trying to get you to rotate towards the target. So I need you to feel that as you're taking that club away, that's happening. So let's double this up actually. Let's put this under here as well. So do you mind standing on this? That's it, flare this foot out. Let's just put it a little bit more under. Cool. If you're gonna fail on where to push, it's more towards the heel than it is the toe. Okay. And what I want you to do, obviously you're gonna not hit a ball, but as you take that club away, I want you to feel you're sliding and you're sliding back towards that 430 position. Can you do that for me again? Yeah, nice. Basically what that does, if you think about it, it breaks your backswing, stops you swaying. You open your foot up to give you more rotation, and it's just getting you prepared to then come back again. Do that a few times just to get used to that feeling. That's what the best players in the world do. Now we need to get left foot good too. So remember, the left foot is the complete opposite. And with the left foot, I want it to be onto the big pads, just underneath the 2 big toes. And if you go up to the top of your swing and stop for me, I want to feel here you're pushing forward towards 1030, this way, more towards me, but you're using that toe to do it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Like the more that you push this way, the more the ground's going to push you out of the way.
Okay.
It sounds completely counterintuitive, by the way, because I've just said to you that you're early extending,
Yeah.
and now you're being asked to push this way. But actually, imagine that
Yeah.
wall. You push the wall, you go back,
Yeah.
don't you? I can't have you just think faking it, trying to get bum back. You need to use the ground to get bum back. Forces are obviously massively, massively important when it comes to moving the club. And like I said, that synchronization is key to getting good, powerful shots from the ground up. But if you just go back to Isaac Newton's laws for a second, his first law was an object at rest stays at rest until a force is applied. Same thing as an object moving, to stop it, another force needs to be applied, right? You don't just move, you need to push into something to actually get that movement. But basically, force precedes motion. The force has to happen before the movement. Now, what that means in the golf swing is, if you think about it, when you hit the ground hits you back, and that ground reaction force takes time to go through your body and into the club, right? If I was to take the club up to here and start that swing, we should have done all those 4 forces and those torques before that lead arm is parallel with the ground.
Okay.
That's a lot happening. Bear in
Yeah.
mind that the downswing is 0.24 seconds long. It's
Yeah.
a quarter of a second and that's it, it's over. But if you see when you see the best players in the world at the very top of the swing, that literally that weight shift happens at that 0.24 seconds. It's the first thing that happens.
Okay.
Then the club starts to shallow. Like I say, that literally happens at about 0.15 of a second before impact. Then there's that twisting that happens 0.2 seconds later. And then finally at 0.08 seconds, which puts it literally bang on that lead arm parallel, you've done the biggest push out of this foot.
Okay.
Now you've got time for that energy to go through your body to move you before you make contact. Sadly for you, you're doing that last force and you're down here.
Right.
The problem with down here is if you're applying that biggest force here, there isn't time to get that force through your body before you make contact. That's an upper body swing, right, which sadly is what you're doing. So basically what I need to do is get those forces happening earlier. And it's the number one problem I see with amateurs when we're studying the ground is their forces are just, they apply forces, but it's late. It's always late. Good players do it so much earlier so they can use that force to generate power.
Yep.
So what I want to just do now is I do want to get you on the Super Speed Force Pro, because I think actually that board is going to be good to just tie a few things together.
Yep.
So what I want to do is I've just set this up to match up your right foot and your left foot here with those pedals.
Yep.
I've just put 2 markers on either side to represent that push in that direction of 430.
Yep.
And then that push of 1030 into the left. But what I want you to try and feel is as you take that club back, as you're taking the club back, you're already preloading into this right foot. You're getting that good load. In that change of direction is when you get that huge push this way, because I want you to, like I say, have done it before you're here.
Okay.
Now you've got time to post up, clear out of the way, and release the club in a better fashion. I just need you to try and synchronize these better. And sadly, because you're not using the ground very well, this will feel quite strange. But I'm not, just because you've got a good weight shift, we can always do better.
Yeah.
100% we can do better. But that weight shift is massively important. There's a reason why in baseball, if you were throwing a ball, there's a reason why pitchers are on a mound. When they're on a mound, what happens? They come off the mound, they hit the ground hard, the ground hits them back hard, they get more force and more torque.
Okay.
There's no step in golf, although I think that's coming in. I think you'll start to see more players stepping, but it definitely can be in practice.
Okay.
I just want to give you the experience, first of all, of what this feels like. So can you get on this for a second? Let's see. Right, you ready to do this?
Yep. So is my weight supposed to be relatively even or more towards the right
Nah,
side?
great question, right? If you think about this logically, if I want to move my body to the right, I need to push off my left to get there. So what I see with a lot of good players is they start on the left-hand side, they push off the right to get the club starting to move and their body to move this way. But I want you to really experience this feeling that you're loading onto the inside and you're really pushing away towards that 430 position.
Yep.
That's you loading so much better.
Yep.
But what I want you to do now is then you have to then, think about that's your backswing.
Yep.
Downswing is just purely, I want your focus to be on that left toe. And it's a big push into that left toe to then post you back again.
Okay.
So can you do that for me? Just go up to the top of your swing and stop. Remember, start on the left, Push off the left to get up to the top. Yeah, nice. If you hold it there, now from this position, I want you to do a big push into that left toe. That's you getting used to that force early. And like I said, I know it seems funny because you're going forward, but you need something to push into to push you back again. And that's why this is so massively important. So do that again. I'm going to hold you this time. Go and push into that left. That push, that motion, that hard motion, I want to happen before that lead arm is parallel. It cannot happen down here. Like imagine if you were throwing a ball, like you would never start the throw and then shift. That'd be a really bad throw, wouldn't it? So let's do that again. Take it up to the top. Big push and turn. That is class. That motion for you is so important. You need to get a better load, first of all. And I think flaring that right foot out will massively help you. Get that good load onto the inside of the foot and really practice, first of all, pushing away. Because if you can push hard, the ground's going to push you back harder and get you going towards the target. It's also going to start you shallowing better, which is what I'm after. The left foot is what pushes you out of the way. Can I show you a little jump drill that would help you with this?
Sounds good.
Yeah? Can you jump as high as you can for me for a sec?
Off 2 feet.
2 feet, just so I want you to do a vertical jump as high as you can. Can't do it again, but I want you to watch your arms this time when you're doing it. Okay, so what are your arms doing?
Moving back in as I squat and then up to thrust me forwards and up.
Yeah, cool. Let me show you what a golf jump looks like. So a golf jump, we do the complete opposite. We actually start with our arms up. We think they're up here. You squat, and as you jump, the arms come down. So what I want you to try is, let's put the arms up first. Do a squat down. And as you jump up, I want you to pull your arms down like so. That was pretty well synchronized. I like that. Go on, do that again. See if we can go a little higher. Cool. This is what we call a golf jump, right? I just want you to put your hands in a grip and pull the hands above your right shoulder. And now this time I want you to squat, and as you jump, I want you to pull them down. Yeah, cool. Right, so that's you getting used to that jump. Right, what I want you to do now is stand here, and I want to see, can you start here and finish over here?
Same thing, so
stand back slightly. Same thing, but I want you to rotate towards the target. Yeah, but can we do it? Let's see if we can do it a long way. In fact, go as far as you can.
And I'm looking to finish like that?
Yeah, facing the target. But doing that golf jump, so lifting the arms up. Yeah, cool. So think about this from a feet point of view. Which foot is getting you that way?
Left.
You think it's the left. Okay, so now try and lift your right foot off and see, can you jump across to the left, okay? Have a go. Not bad. Now focus on the right, and I want you to push as hard as you can off the right and see if you can go further. Which one was more?
Right.
Right is the leg that gets you off that side across onto the left. Now what I want you to do is start here, and I want you to finish over, not here, I want you to finish this side. Okay, so I want you to feel like you're going to jump this way towards the target, but also backwards.
So twist round.
So you're going to twist facing the target, but you're going to go backwards when you're doing it.
So into there.
Yeah.
And then
Have a think. Squat, jump.
And arms come down as I twist.
It's funny, I don't have to think about that at all, but as soon as I add a bit of rotation, it changes. Which foot do you reckon pushed you back that way?
That one. Left.
Your left. Whereabouts in the foot do you think would get you going back? It's weird to think about it, whereabouts in the foot. If you think about it, like this is the hard, like I said, this is the harder jump. Like imagine the golf swing as a jump. Where would you jump? You would never jump off your heels. Try and do a jump off your heels, you look ridiculous. Like the jump comes from the toe. And like I said, I want that big pad to be doing the work. And so on this time, try it again, but I want you to feel like and focus more on that big pad, pushing you backwards this way. Yeah, nice. Where this is really good as an exercise is it gets you learning to get off this right, which gets that weight shift, but it gets you used to also going backwards to get the hips to clear out of the way. You made that look quite easy, man. So I just want to talk about now what's happening as that energy goes through the body. Okay, so if you think about it, when we get to the top of the swing here, like I say, the best players in the world, in that transition sequence, before the club even changes direction, the lower body starts to swing with the best players in the world, right? Followed by the upper body, then the lead arm, and then finally the club. That's the correct order.
Yep.
I always use the analogy of a whip. It's like the handle of the whip is your lower body, the tip of the whip is the club. The last thing I want is, imagine the people that cast it, that's the handle, that's the tip of the whip moving before the handle, right? Think of that over the top motion. That's the upper body moving before the lower body. Yeah. You're actually in quite a good order. So at the top of the swing, you start the race really well. As in, like, the lower body starts. So the handle of the whip is moving first, the tip of the whip moves last, right? That's great. Unfortunately, you don't finish in that position, right? The lower body doesn't really stop. Yep. You kind of spin out, I think, is the best way to think about it.
Yep.
But if you think about that whip analogy, it's not so much how fast the handle moves forward, but it's the stop that is the crack. Yep. That's what sends energy up through the chain. Imagine if the handle didn't stop. That's a really bad whip, isn't it?
Yeah.
At the moment, you're not getting that stop.
Okay.
Which basically, a nice way to think of that for you is your lower body hasn't done its job. It hasn't won the race.
Yep.
Go back to the 100-meter race. No one speeds up past the finish line, do they? They slow down. Yep. And it's the same thing that happens in a golf swing. Why it slows down is because it's done its job. I think that's a really nice way of thinking about it. And at the moment, when you come into impact, you're thrusting forwards this way. You're getting that early extension and you're not getting that nice rotation out of the way.
Yep.
So with that left foot, I think is going to be a big one for you of getting used to that left foot pushing you backwards.
Yep.
But I need you to also train how that feels like to get into a good impact position, because the golf ball only cares about what happens at that moment of impact. And I think we could do with training that with you. Can I show you what that means first? Can I borrow that club for a second? So if you think at the moment, when you get to the impact, you're not returning like we see with the best players in the world like this.
Yep.
You're returning with your lower body gone forward this way, and sadly the hands then being pulled past, right? I want to feel like your belt buckle is starting and getting out of the way sooner, so it can do its job and send energy up through the chain.
Yep.
Now, the funny thing is I always find with impact is, and bear in mind, impact is the only thing the golf ball really cares about, right? It's that moment of maximum compression.
Yep.
At the moment, you're not returning like this, you're returning like this.
Yep.
Which, funny enough, is how you start.
Yep.
Like, it's interesting in golf that we start one way, but we return into something different, right? Now, I know why, it's because we've got a backswing to worry about, but if impact is the only thing the golf ball cares about, I like to go after impact. So a lovely drill you can do is actually, let's get you into a good impact position. Let's get this feeling that you're pushing with the ground on that toe back this way to get you into this nice clearance where the hips are open, the chest is pointing forward, and the hands are just ahead of the club head.
Okay.
And what I want you to do from a feel point of view is just, let's do a couple of rehearsal swings coming back to that nice place, but you really focusing on pushing with that toe to get you to move out of the way this way.
Okay.
That's going to help get bum back, get you opening up so you're not throwing your lower body forward.
Yep.
And I think it's always quite a nice test to do is get into that good impact position, do a couple of rehearsal swings, feeling that, and then come back and actually try and hit one from that good place.
Okay.
It's funny, like if you took a hammer behind the nail, you would always start with the hammer behind the nail, would you? That we don't in golf.
Yep.
We start with the hammer over here and hope it hits the nail.
Okay.
Your poor thumb. That's basically what's happening. Can we try and hit a few shots doing that, please? So let's mimic that impact position, okay? So let's clear the hips. So feel that they're open up this way. And I want you to get the handle ahead. I just want you to do a few rehearsal swings coming back to that nice place, but don't actually hit one. Just get used to coming back to what your intention is. And your intention is to clear out of the way. Yeah, nice. That's you teaching your brain of what's good.
Yep.
And you think about the golf swing is dynamic, which we're trying to move, we're trying to get that rotational movement, but I just want to trick your brain into going, well, this is how I'm going to start, this is how I'm going to finish.
Okay.
You do get a lot of people that actually go, well, why didn't I just start like that? You don't start like that because you've got a backswing to worry about. But if impact's wrong, like yours is, it just makes logical sense to get impact right.
Yep.
And I want you to really feel it's that left foot that's pushing you back that's going to clear those hips out of the way. So can we do that a couple of times? Let's do a few rehearsals and then let's hit one. Yeah, nice, very nice. And then whenever you're ready, let's hit one.
Felt like I was coming back into a better position than I was before.
Yeah, I think, do you know what? When you get using the ground better and you really understand how you push into the ground, you'll be amazed of how much you start getting those hips rotating. Just never try and force them out of the way, like fake it, which is kind of what you're doing. I need you to push them out of the way.
Yep.
So from a practice point of view, your practice needs to involve literally you working on right leg first, like pushing off the right and hitting some shots, getting used to, like, you can use those pedals, you could get a tennis ball, cut it in half, like just put it on the inside, feeling that you're pushing away, and just do some shots, literally just doing that to start with. Like nail that bit first, because if you can push yourself over to the left, you're gonna find it so much easier to weight shift. Then go on to left foot. I find it really difficult to do two things at once. We are blokes after all, but start with the right, then move to the left, because the left is the power source that's going to push you out of the way. And go back to your power screen for a second. Your legs were your strongest thing. They were your superpower. They're basically not doing anything, which is exciting when it comes to what you could do golf swing wise.
Absolutely,
because you're not actually using your superpower. You're relying on, sadly, your weakest muscles to do it all. Does that make sense?
It does.
Are you going to enjoy this practice?
I am.
Yeah. Can we hit a couple more?
Yes.
Go on, let's really feel this. And I tell you what, let's put a pedal onto this left, because I really want you to feel this. So just do a couple of rehearsal swings, take it up to the top and stop. And then just get used to that initial big push into that left. Do you see what I mean about using the ground to push you out of the way?
Yeah.
The interesting one I always find, if you take that club and put it, can you put the club behind your back for a second like this? And if I was just to get a robe or a band, is using that pedal, if I just wrap it around here, can you grip this side? That's it. What I want to try and do is I'm going to try and pull you this way, and I want you to try and resist. Okay, so I want you to really focus on that left foot while you're doing this. So can you try and rotate yourself this way, and I'm going to try and make it harder for you. Go on, where you push, don't let me win. I'm basically winning.
Yeah, so into the left toe.
Yeah, it's massively, that toe is so massively important when it comes to this.
Right.
Can we try and hit one with that same feeling? Like, let's just try and hit one with just that pedal. How'd that feel? Did it feel uncomfortable?
I don't know if I got the sequence right there.
It was late.
Yeah.
It was late. 100% it was late. You're basically, because it's new, you're struggling to feel it, which is fine, by the way. That's absolutely fine to feel something new. It's in that change of direction that it has to feel it. So what I would do, can I borrow you for the club for a sec? Like, is a lovely drill you can do is actually take it up to the top of the swing and stop. And just do a couple of pumps into this left toe, first of all, to get used to that feeling of you're initiating the swing, like I said, before the lead arm is parallel. Now you've got time to push you out of the way. And I think you don't even have to hit balls with this. It's just a feeling of it's a big push, it's a push, then turn. Can you try that for me without a ball? Yeah, nice. That is the equivalent of you starting with the ground as that weight shift. If you were throwing a ball, that's you starting with your body turn before the arm moved. Not you moving the arm and then shifting. Has that been useful today?
Absolutely, yeah. This is my my routine now every morning while I'm eating breakfast. In there.
Use your footwork well. Honestly, if these are your strongest muscles and you're not using them. You're really not using them at all, which is just such a shame. But it also, excites me because you're not a bad golfer not using your superpower.
Yeah.
Right. If you start using the ground better, it's going to help you get better rotation. It's going to help you hit the ball further and with more consistency.
Amazing. I'm looking forward to it. Excited.
Well done, mate.
Cheers, mate.
That's all right.